I'm Lucy Miller, and today I'll be presenting a piece from composer Nkeiru Okoye. She's an African-American woman composer born in 1972 and still living today. For her undergraduate degree, she went to Oberlin Conservatory, studied music, and for her graduate studies, she went to Rutgers University. A lot of her compositions are centered around American history and events that have happened in America. So like her opera, Harriet Tubman, When I Crossed That Line to Freedom, is a great example. A Voice is Shouting Out is a popular piece as well that was written in the wake of 9/11. And then Invitation to a Die-In is in memory of Trayvon Martin. So some of the accolades she's received is one of them is the Florence Prize Award in composition. And then in 2021, she was named a Guggenheim Fellow. So the piece I'll be focusing on today is Dusk, which is from the collection of 4 pieces, African Sketches, which was written from 2007 to 2008. And the Royal Conservatory of Music currently has it listed as a level 5 piece. So some of the main pedagogical features of this piece, we have a lot of mixed meter. So it's usually switching between 4/4 and 3/4 for the most part. But sometimes we do get this irregular meter here, such as 5/4, which may be a little bit more unusual to intermediate students. There's also an uncommon key signature. We have 6 flats. And at this point, it's very important for intermediate students to be able to play in all keys. This would be a great exercise for them. There's also a lot of rubato. Some of it's written out, like it'll specifically say rubato or broaden, but there's also rhythmic rubato, as we can see with like these half note triplets in measure 25. It doesn't divide evenly into a 4/4 measure. It has to be more felt, but it's also a more free rhythm that allows for more ebb and flow. Pedals also be used throughout this entire piece, and because it is a modern composition, it doesn't have the same classical chord progressions, so it's going to be even more important for students to be able to listen to their own playing to be able to tell when they need to change the pedal. So some of the techniques going to be useful for this piece. There needs to be handy quality. There's a couple places in this piece where the melody or the main phrase line switches hands, so we have to make sure that both hands are independent. They're both equally strong and equally even to be able to play those phrases properly. Finger independence is also going to be important, especially for voicing chords. You can see we have a very chordal texture a lot of the time, so it's going to be important that we bring out that top note. And we also have differing rhythms even in the same hand. So in the 3rd measure here, we can see the thumb is holding a half note while the 4th and 5th finger have to play a completely different rhythm. So we need finger independence for that. It's also going to be important to keep a loose wrist. We can see that there's this tenuto staccato articulation occurring at the same time. So you make sure we have a loose wrist so that we can play the note, the same chord repeatedly with that proper articulation. Make sure it doesn't get held down too long. It's not stiff and stuck. And also for shaping these melody lines, we can see a lot of these phrasing hairpins. So it's going to be important to keep a loose wrist to make sure that the melody can sing and to make sure that the phrase line continues going on. Some of the main difficulties I think that are going to be for this piece is going to be, well, one of them is going to be holding rhythms for the intended length. So I think because this piece has a lot of that ebb and flow, a lot of rubato, it's also a slower piece, it'll be easy for students to cut notes short or hold them too long, especially as we're switching from measures that are like purely quarter notes to these half note measures. Sometimes playing you want to play the half notes as quarter notes, so it's going to be important to make sure that we're playing all the rhythms correctly. Phrasing. So there's a lot of phrase markings, these hairpins given. So it's going to be important that we follow this, and this ties in with the loose wrist, making sure that we have no tension in our hands, that we can follow these phrase markings properly. Also, it's a modern piece, so there's going to be a more contemporary sound. It's not the chord progressions that people only versed in purely classical music would be used to. So it's going to be important to know how to phrase these new sounds and new dissonances. I think it's also going to be important to know what needs to be brought out. Sometimes it can be hard to tell what the actual melody is because it's a very atmospheric piece. It's meant to build an atmosphere rather than be a singable melody. So it's going to be important to know what needs to be brought out to build this proper atmosphere.